This week, I had a chance to sit down with a real pro when it comes to motion graphics and graphic design in general. This person has built a following on LinkedIn of almost 10,000 followers. And in this discussion, we broke down how she established a space and following on social media and how that can benefit you guys watching today. This is a conversation that you really want to be a part of, so let's get it. So, Suz, can you let us know who you are, what you're all about, and how you got into the graphic design world?
Sure. So I'm Suz. I'm from Armenia, and being part of the design world wasn't really part of my plan. The plan was to become a bohemian artist and just do paintings and illustrations. And then slowly I realized that I like design because design has purpose while art is about self-expression. And I wanted that interaction with other people through my work. And that's how I got into design.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they get into graphic design initially, they think it's a very artistic or very creative thing to get into, but in reality, it's methodical and creative at the same time.
Yeah. So many people focus on the visual aspect of it, but it's solving a problem for someone. Always has a purpose.
Yeah, that's what I tell my viewers all the time, that first and foremost, we are problem solvers. It's a really important thing to keep in mind, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, of course, the creative, the visual part is the fun part. And it's easy to just be consumed by that part of the design. But when you put these two things together, then you really get value out of it for other people.
Yeah, and actually, I think that's why it's quite difficult to come by some really good graphic designers these days. It's because it does need that methodical approach in conjunction with the creativity as well, combined together.
I think so too. And I think the fact that we have so many tools when it comes to design, whether that's AI or how easy it is to create things, so many designers focus more on the technical part of it and forget the classical part of it, which is the thinking aspect, strategic aspect of the design. And I think that's the issue. But once they stop focusing on the technical part, people do 3D animations and all these things, and that's cool, but as long as it's serving a purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Every design has a purpose. So that is one of the golden rules of design. Every functional design does have a purpose. I know we first connected on LinkedIn and that's where we first met. And we're going to get to that later because there's a lot of value to be there for the viewers, I think. But at the moment, what is your main part of design that you work in? Is it motion graphics, web design, or is it just, graphic design in general? What is your niche at the moment?
Well, I started my career as a multidisciplinary designer. I started as a junior designer, but I was so passionate about learning as much as possible. And most of it was actually coming from insecurities in a way, because, yeah, absolutely. Because, it started in Armenia. A studio called Devo hired me as their first employee, the first designer.
Wow.
And now when I look back and I remember my portfolio, I was not qualified for the job.
Yeah, we've all been there, right?
The thing is, after I got accepted and I started working with them, later on I asked to see what other portfolios they had, and they had very good portfolios, but they picked me. And I was curious. I was like, why would you choose me? You had all these qualified candidates, because they had, I suppose, more industry-specific projects, so like branding, packaging and things like that. My portfolio was just illustrations and just crazy explorations and so on. And they told me it's because I seemed very passionate. That's why they decided to hire me. And I think the first 2 months, they kind of regretted that.
But they kept you anyway.
They kept me anyway. And I think the reason they kept me, now that I look back, that was about 10 years ago. The reason they kept me is because I was going to work at 8 a.m. in the morning. I was leaving at 11, and they were very generous to allow me to take courses while I was at work and develop my skills. And so I think that was one of the reasons they sort of kept me.
You touched upon passion there, and I think that's very important because if a designer doesn't have the right level of passion, eventually they will burn out when they hit a wall or when things get tough in the workflow, because things do get tough at some point in your career. But in regard to your passion, I guess it's still there, right?
Oh, Tom, I want to say yes.
Maybe your passion has just evolved a bit.
I think it changes. It's like a wave. It sort of comes and goes. And this is coming from someone who has done 200 days challenges. And so,
Mm.
yes, I think we met after my second 100 days challenge, but I've done one before prior to that
Oh,
one. And of course, passion is so important, but only passion is definitely not enough.
oh
I
yeah.
can tell you that for sure. Because burning out, if you're doing something consistently for a long time, then burnout is inevitable. I think that the important part is, what do you do with that? Like, how do you get out of it, and what do you learn from that to make sure that it doesn't repeat itself?
Yeah, that's a very wise approach, actually. But there's something I've always kept in my mind, and that is the analogy of fire. Like fire requires fuel, a spark, and oxygen to get going. And in the same way, a graphic designer, I believe, should have the passion that we spoke about earlier, the creativity, and of course, also the skills too.
And I think it's also, when someone is passionate about something, they're always up to date with what's happening in the industry. They just naturally are interested in everything. So automatically they become more intelligent about certain things. They learn more about things. And creativity is like intelligence having fun with, what was the quote there?
And I've not heard that quote before, actually.
Uh, that was, I think, Einstein's quote. It's intelligence having fun, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, intelligence makes a difference, because it's your knowledge and your personal experience with what you've seen.
That's pretty cool. But going back to creative blocks and hitting walls, what are some of the challenges that you faced in your design career? And how did you overcome those things?
I think my biggest challenge was the most recent 100 days challenge as a project. And the challenging part of it was to come up with something new every time and be happy with it, and to also share it with the world, and being active on social media. Because most of the designers that I know, and I'm one of them, we're not really comfortable with sharing everything with the world, especially when it's not done yet. It's kind of in a rough state. So I think
Mhm.
that would be the hardest part. And I can tell you why. I think it's because being creative, it means that you're using something from within. It's like a vulnerable part of you.
Hmm.
And so when you're sharing it with the world, you're, in a way, you're sharing your vulnerability with the world.
To be judged, basically.
Yeah. And
Mm.
so when you get judged, it's difficult not to take it personally. I think that's the difficult part of it.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean there. But going back to LinkedIn and how we met, I first came into contact with your work with one of those 100-day challenges. And I was so inspired by the quality of the work that you managed to put out in just a single day, of course, across 100 days. But what actually inspired you to get into those challenges in the first place?
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Well, the reason I did this 100 days challenge was because I noticed that I'm not I'm good when it comes to digital design and animations and web design. And I noticed that our clients at the studio, and my personal clients as well, they were quite happy with it, because it was solving a problem that they are facing. So obviously there is like a clear user experience and user flow and so on. And the aesthetics was clean. But then I noticed that maybe there is something missing in the digital experiences. The fact that we have all these tools and we're not utilizing it in real projects was becoming an issue. And I wanted to delight users through digital experiences.
Mhm.
And that was the main reason I started this challenge. And of course, it evolved. Uh, but in the beginning, it was just me exploring different things and trying to see, like, what else can I do with web experiences.
Genuine curiosity and creativity, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? In the beginning, it was just me experimenting and sharing it on LinkedIn, and I didn't have any engagement whatsoever. It took me probably like 60 days or more to get an engagement. And then later on, all of a sudden, I noticed developers becoming part of this challenge and developing these experiences that I didn't even think is possible to develop. And all of a sudden, it became this communal challenge. And it was so satisfying.
That's so cool, though.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're doing really well on LinkedIn, but for the viewers' benefit, can we talk about how important you think social media is to graphic designers in this day and age? Like, how crucial is it?
I think that's the most important investment you can do for yourself, for your career in the future, because everyone is active on social, and most of the designers, and again, I was part of this type of designers, we get scared to be active on social media, but I think it's very important. And I was thinking about what is it that what scares us the most, other than being vulnerable or the fear of judgment. I think it's the fact that people think that it's about them, so they are sort of showing themselves. But I think it's more about what you do and how that thing can help someone else.
Yeah, I always try to add value to everything I do as a graphic designer and also a content creator.
Yeah, and I think that also fuels the work itself, because then you see people learning from it and experimenting with that and then growing in return. So, and I love your content, by the way.
You mean my content?
Yeah, it's amazing.
If you go back to my old videos in 2016, 2017, I personally don't even go back there myself because of, well, it's just basically a cringe fest to me. Yeah.
By the way, how did you start?
Oh, yeah. Well, back then, my girlfriend at the time, she was the one who gave me the idea. She said, why don't you make some tutorials on YouTube? And I looked around and I noticed there weren't many Adobe Illustrator tutorials back then. So I just started to make content that was valuable. It brought value to people who use Illustrator. And that's how I got into the whole YouTube thing, really.
But it's so important to know where you started and where you are at the moment. And what was your focus when you first started? Were you showing tutorials?
Yeah, it was just literally making tutorials like how to use a pen tool or kind of 5 hacks for Adobe Illustrator. But yeah, from the start, even back then, it was all about adding value to people, giving them a reason or, to find the video useful and to take it back into their own workflow.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, you're crushing it on LinkedIn right now. I've noticed. How many followers have you got right this second?
I think I'm reaching 10,000.
Wow.
9 something, yeah.
For LinkedIn, that's really impressive, actually, Suz. But how long has that taken so far to get?
Well, that took, I think, 100 days.
The 100-day challenge, I assume.
Yeah, the second one, I think I had 2,000 followers, and then it reached almost 10,000 now. But it's like a compounded.
I see.
Because in the I think it was 5,000 when I finished the 100-day post, and then I had one other post that to sum up the 100 days, and that one was very successful. It was very popular.
So the next 100 days will be what, 50,000 perhaps?
I don't know, but I still don't know what I'm going to focus on. But I definitely want to do another 100 days. In fact, I want to do it a yearly thing, like every year, because I noticed the transformation that it brings, the change that it brings. It's really amazing.
Yeah, and of course on LinkedIn, it does help to build connections, doesn't it? But yeah, I want to talk about that quickly, actually. How have you leveraged your audience on LinkedIn, your following? Have you used it to create revenue or value in some way?
Well, yeah, I have more clients now, more like personal clients. But I must say, maybe that kind of content wasn't the best way to get more clients. You get more attention and you get clients who are interested in more like artistic things. But I think if my goal was to have more clients, I would probably have a different strategy. And maybe that's what my next 100 days will be about. Because I noticed that focusing on one specific niche is definitely much better than you can really target one specific group of people and bring them value.
Yeah, for sure. Like I even tell my audience and people that even a portfolio needs to be targeted to a specific group of people. Because as designers, we should know that the design is visual communication and should be targeted to specific people. But on your next 100 days challenge, do you have an idea how you're going to target that and what kind of path you're going to go down?
Well, this is very raw at the moment, but I was thinking to target more SaaS companies and see how I can bring value to them through digital experiences, whether that's animations or webflow development, web design, and so on. I think because they also need lots of updates all the time. It's a very fast-paced industry, so that's the territory that I'm most passionate at the moment.
Yeah, and just circling back to social media in general here, do you have any advice or tips for viewers watching on how to gain a following, gain a presence on social media as a graphic designer?
Yes, I do. I have to reflect back to my 100 days challenge because that was such a big learning experience for me. Uh, and the framework that I was using for this 100 days was to create something that excites me, to create something that I learn from. And the third thing was to share it, just to share it with the world. And I think consistency is the key in here, just doing something every day or a few times a week and just keep on sharing it. Because you'll be amazed the kind of people that will be excited from your content. It's just share, and eventually you will grow.
Now, I want to touch upon something that I've noticed, and that is the evolution of graphic design becoming more motion based. What are your thoughts on that? And also, what are your thoughts of graphic design in the future in general?
I think it makes sense because more and more people are using, the internet, obviously, and I think it's very exciting because you find a new medium that is just actively growing and reaching people with no boundaries whatsoever. Um, but I must say that it's important to really know the basics of design because whether that's animation or 3D or printed materials, basics always matter. The basics always matter. So when you know who you're doing it for, then the technical part doesn't really matter. And I always follow this framework that's coming from my creative director. His name is Rob. He says, arrest, evolve, resolve. And no matter what you're doing, when you follow that, the project is much more impactful.
Nice one. I've actually never heard that before.
Yeah, I think it's his original quote.
Is he going to trademark that one, do you think?
I don't know. Ooh.
This is something I considered not long ago, actually, and it is the whole thing to do with targeting people or targeting groups of people. And that is in graphic design. It's a lot like when you're buying a gift for somebody. When you buy a gift for someone you know, someone you're close to, you don't just go and pull some random thing off the shelf because obviously you look at the interests, the hobbies, the likes, dislikes, and you tailor the gift to that. And graphic design is similar because we need to know our target audience's likes, needs, interests, all of that good stuff. And that helps us design the visual language and tailoring our designs to them.
Yeah, I really like that analogy, and that's exactly how it is. I think when we talk about like niching down or really understanding your audience, most of the creatives think that it's limiting in a way, but I think it's the opposite. You get to really know a crowd very well and do something very meaningful for them.
And then, of course, potential clients from that crowd will go to that person because now they are the go to in that niche.
Yeah, absolutely. Like recently, I was reading about niching down, and I came across this guy. I don't remember his name, but his niche was so specific. He was doing web design for uh, for U.S. market, a very specific market, and his clients were people who create ceilings. Like
Hmm.
it was so specific, and he had clients. He had so many clients, and he didn't have time to take more clients.
Yeah, because now he's the go to in that specific industry, right?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, I think it is important to eventually find that niche, find your voice. And that comes from, I think, having the passion in a certain niche sector. And also, of course, you need the skills in it as well.
Yeah, I agree. But I think if it was a few years ago, then I would try everything. I
Mhm.
would just try to learn as many techniques, design directions, just acquire as much knowledge as possible. but then later on in your career, I think it's much better to really niche down on one specific thing.
So I want to address the elephant in the room. Do you know what that is?
What is
AI.
it?
AI.
Oh yes, AI. Yeah.
What are your views on AI and how it's moving or has been moving into the design world?
I think AI is a very exciting tool. I mean, we have so many tools when it comes to AI, and I'm very excited about it. But to be honest with you, I haven't really experimented much with it. I've just tried a few mid-journey prompts, and the result is absolutely amazing. I think we shouldn't be scared of it as creatives because it's a very powerful tool, and we need to know how to use it. Um, and when creators get scared of it, I think it's because they think that AI is going to take their job. But I don't think that's the case. I think AI does whatever already exists, and nothing can really replace the human experience.
At the moment, yes, but in 50 to 100 years, who knows what's going to happen, right? But yeah, I think right now we're pretty much safe.
That's also true.
Yeah. I think the designers who fail to understand the power of AI as a tool will be the ones who eventually are left behind. And I myself, I don't use it to make finished designs. I make it to research things and maybe thumbnail designs to help with that, and also mock-ups. Yeah.
And I think to use it more effectively, you need to have industry knowledge to be
Oh
able
yeah.
to clearly write prompts and to have enough references to create something that you're looking for. What tools do you use?
Yeah, I've got a paid version of ChatGPT, which I use a lot for researching and creating copy. But I also use Adobe Firefly for things like adjusting the parameters of my thumbnails or just images as well, like that. So yeah, I use both of those in conjunction.
Good. I'm going to try that.
So I'd love to hear if you've got any tips for becoming a graphic designer in 2025 and beyond. For those who are up and coming or who are struggling at the moment, what kind of tips do you have?
I think the best thing you can do for yourself and your career is just experiment, learn as much as possible, and share it with the world. And just embrace any kind of criticism that comes to your way, because it's not criticism towards you personally, it's about your work. And that's a tool that you can use to grow and become much better than you are at the moment.
Wow, well said. Yeah, I totally agree with that. But do you have any questions, any things to add onto this discussion?
Well, the AI subject is just very interesting. What would be your advice when it comes to experimenting with AI at the moment?
Yeah, working with AI, I see it like it is a tool, yes, but also it's kind of like you're bringing someone onto your team, you're hiring somebody to work with you, and it's a way to save time. But crucially, you should never take what it gives you as concrete or final. You should always question the information from ChatGPT, and you should have the eye for design to look at things it's giving you in a critical way. It is really a tool, it's a stepping stone in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And I have one more question. You've been doing this for almost 9 years. What would be your advice to, someone who's starting right now, whether that's a junior designer or more senior in their career?
Yeah, like we've touched upon already, I think you need to have that passion there to begin with. But yeah, and also to be adding value. But you should never be scared to put things out on social media. It's daunting, I know, to begin with, but once you get the ball rolling and you stop fearing being judged, things do become a lot easier. And yeah, granted, there are going to be people who disagree or hate on what we put out there. And taking on criticism can be beneficial if you take it on properly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the worst thing you can have is no reaction at all.
Hmm.
And when you get criticism, it's
Tumbleweed, basically.
yeah,
Right. Yeah, I also think you need to learn how each individual platform on social media behaves differently. If it's learning the algorithms or the social norms, it's important to understand how each platform is different. And you can find this stuff on YouTube anyway. You can just research tutorials and find out all the facts on there.
yeah,
So,
absolutely. Thank you.
Why are you thinking of moving on to YouTube?
Well, I'm thinking about it, but it seems so much work, and I'm also scared.
No, no, you shouldn't be scared. I think you could even do something like have your designs on screen and talk about your process and what goes into making those designs. Maybe as a camera side shot or something.
Yeah, I think such. The thing that I always think about is that are people actually interested in that? There are better creators who cover those things, but then I also think everyone's process is different, and maybe I should create content for the Suz who was searching for a mentor like 5-6 years ago.
I also think it's what flavor you can bring to a topic or a video because, say, for example, we can all make a video on, say, visual hierarchy, but it's how you make it and how you teach it and how you present it and how you differentiate from other people on social media.
It's I think that's about authenticity, how authentic you can be online while providing value to others.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
But hey, thanks, Suze, for coming on today and having this discussion for the viewers and for me. It's been pretty cool.
Thank you, Tom. It was my pleasure being here.
But yeah, take care, and I'm sure we'll speak again soon.
Thanks, Tom. You too.
Bye.